You know when things are really tough, when you're up against the wall, do you have I'll say the will, the reason, the purpose to survive? That's a skill that you can learn. A lot of times we think, oh, you're born with those things. No, you can learn that. Let's talk in a way that we can help do that.
Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan, and we're here with our friend Jim Phillips, and in a little bit of an unusual setting, but enjoying our conversation nonetheless. And today we're talking about emotional resilience. We spent a lot of time talking about the physical aspects of preparedness and resilience, food and water, shelter, fuel, all those components, but probably more important than that is the emotional aspect. And Jim is the expert on that. He's going to talk with us today about things that we can do to be more resilient emotionally. So Jim, talk to us a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm still learning. You know, if people think I'm some guru that has it all together, I'm sorry. I'm still learning. As a matter of fact, this process I've been going through for the past several weeks and months is a part of my learning. And one of the things that's a real challenge is when you're having things that hurt, that make you sick, or you're financially struggling, or whatever it is, or let's take the case of, you know, what I've been focusing on, talking a lot about is when the world around you is upside down, the power grid's gone, you have all these things going on. How do you get through that? And what Jonathan said is absolutely true. What I call the foundation, what's most important is your attitude, your heart, your head. Because if you lose what's in here and here, all the food, all the water, all those things, all the skills won't make any difference. When people give up, well, it's all over. So developing that resilience is extremely important, and he's identified something that it really is important. Now, as I mentioned, there's a reason why I'm here besides I just need to get well and what have you. When this was all going on, when it was at its worst, it's real easy to get like, poor little me, I'm sitting on the curb eating worms, you know, kind of a thing. You're inside yourself and you're all, what the heck, what did I do wrong? I don't deserve this. And I did that for a little while, and then I'm like, wait a minute, let's think about this. And so I had to ask. Now, for me, I will do it thinking about it from a spiritual standpoint. I identify I'm a Christian. I will pray and I'll say, Father, is there a reason why I'm here? What's going on? Now, I thought about it. I thought I knew the reason why I was having to do these things. But then quiet one night while I was in the other hospital over there and still not feeling really well. And you get, sometimes it's just a one-word message that confirmed what I thought. I am here, number one, to learn patience. Now, I act patient, I do patient, now I need to become patient. And there's a difference, if you understand, between becoming something or just doing it. See, I'm a guy that's been doing these things for years, and I'm supposed to be stoic and strong and what have you, and I can't show that I have emotions, that I'm unhappy, so I buck it up. No, I have to learn to be different. So that was number one that I learned. I'm here for a purpose, and you might, in the situation you're in, you might want to ask the question, what am I here to learn? What do I need to learn? And if you'll focus that way, that's one of the steps of being okay. Oh, by the way, the other thing that came to me 2 days later was, I'm here to learn trust. Those two go together. So that's my personal experience that I'm having right now, to learn some things that I wasn't really good at. Okay, what do you do when you're in these tough situations and you really are struggling? Number one, at the top of the list, you have to have a purpose, a reason. Now, if the purpose is just to have fun, to make money or what have you, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is you're in one of these survival situations. It looks like it's impossible to survive. And I've given books before, some of these books you need to read, like Miracle in the Andes and others. And what you learn from them is every one of the common threads for people that make it through the impossible is they had a reason outside themselves. It wasn't about not dying. It wasn't about not hurting. They had a reason. It's usually about family or friends or a higher cause, and they cannot fathom dying and not finishing that mission. So that's number one, purpose, a reason. Number two on this list, if you want to get it, is you have to have, well, it's commitment. Now it's commitment to the purpose, not commitment to something else. If the commitment is, I need to get home to take care of my family, I don't want other people to suffer, then you have to be so committed to it that you cannot imagine failing. That's kind of the foundation for this. And then, of course, there's a lot of things you have to do. It's not easy. There are some keys that you can be playing with right now to learn what to do. You probably have a chance to practice every day on the freeway. When somebody cuts you off and you're like, you know, whatever you do on that, then you know that you need to work on being calm, because if you say, well, I'm going to show that SOB, I'm going to cut him off, whatever, road rage kills. Raging at yourself kills. The way I've looked at it is there's kind of an emotional continuum. It goes to the left or right this way, and it goes this way over here, and we're trying to be in the middle. And I'm not saying that you don't feel pain, you don't feel upset, you don't get discouraged. That's going to happen. That's life, folks. If you think you're not going to have discouragement or unhappiness, you're wrong. But these two are kind of opposite to each other, but both of them will destroy you. Let's say to the right, it's like, well, I'm upset, I'm really disappointed. As a matter of fact, I don't deserve this. As a matter of fact, why is this happening to me? Matter of fact, I got to fix this. And you get angry. So it's okay to be a little bit angry, and I'm going to give you an example I had yesterday that, like, oh boy, I got to learn. If you take anger to as far as it'll go, it turns into rage. And you've heard crimes of passion. That's when it's at the extreme, and people get so angry, they're so out of control that they hurt, they kill, quite frankly. So you've got to learn to take care of some of these things early on. Don't let it go that far. Now, let me give you my example yesterday, and maybe because we're going to do this, something had to happen that twanged me a little bit, says, okay, you haven't learned it all yet, buddy. So what happened is, last night I had brought in I was told if I brought in some yogurts and kefirs and things to keep my gut microbiome working, because that's kind of hard to do when you're on all these antibiotics and things. So we brought them in, we marked them, we put them in the fridge, or they marked them for me. And then after 2 days, I said, would you bring me one of these little yogurt cups? And they said, well, they're not there. I said, no, I know I had 3 of them, and I have some kefir and I have some kombucha. They're in there. They were put in there. I didn't put them in there, but the nurse, and they came back and said, they're gone. I said, now, I jumped to a conclusion that somebody had stolen them and eaten them, or stolen them and thrown them away. So I was grousing on this. I was becoming rather angry. Exactly what I teach you shouldn't do. And so a little later, they said they'd go back and look, and they said, are these them? And they brought them in and said, yeah, that's in. They had marked on it room 210 rather than, 910 rather than 909. I felt like a heel, because I'd already used some naval words and that, and I'd already been angry, and I'd been here grousing in my bed. So the mistake that I made was I accepted the word of these nurses, and maybe I said, well, let me go look and see, because I would have recognized immediately they were in there. So I jumped to a conclusion. I didn't get the real facts. Now, number 2 that occurred. I have a very expensive hands-free for my phone and everything. It has good audio quality, but it's also electronically decoupled. It was in a gray vest that I have in a pocket. And last night I noticed, where's my vest? Where's my vest? I couldn't find my vest. We looked, I had the nurses look, couldn't find my vest. I thought, oh golly, it went to the laundry. Probably fell on the floor, they took it to the laundry, and they're gonna wash my $80 headset or handset, hands-free. And so I'm like, oh dang. Well, the guy came in today, he brought my vest in, and I said, yeah, that's the vest, they had washed. I looked in the pocket, there was nothing there. I'm looking for some wires and things. He went back and he brought it. It's hanging on the wall over here. It's probably destroyed. But my response to that was, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't the laundry's fault. As a matter of fact, it was my fault. You have to learn to take responsibility, because I had felt like maybe I should get that out of my pocket because somebody might step on it, sit on it. I didn't do it because I'm not feeling all that great. It was my fault, not their fault. So these are lessons maybe you can learn, but you've got to practice them. So that's one thought. Maybe that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Things you can do daily that'll help you get in control, and you get better and better and better at it. The way I sometimes express it when I've had troubles is you can either get bitter or get better. You got to choose one. Now let's continue on this. One of them's anger. Rage will kill. What about the other side? If something happens and you're like, oh, poor little old me, and what I was doing, and why am I here? What's this going on? And I don't deserve this, and so now rage is outward. That's where you're going outward. The emotions, where you go inside, it's called depression. And you can curl in on yourself and become so depressed, so unhappy at the world, so I'll teach them to treat me this way, and you withdraw, curl up in a ball, and die. Neither one of those will get you what you want. You need to stay in the middle. So practice doing things that'll help you stay, I'll just say, middle of the road, not without passion, but in control, because you choose to be in control. This is a tough subject, and one of the things you need to do, there's a lot of books. I'm always saying, here's books you read about people, because you can read about people that have gone through impossible situations. When you look at it, you say you can't possibly survive, but they did. And I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. They had some skill, some knowledge. Some of them weren't very skilled or knowledgeable, but they had a reason to survive. Let's see, what's her name? Kopechne. She was the one where the plane broke apart in a storm, and she fell from 10,000 feet into the jungle. And she didn't die. Now, usually when you fall out of a plane without a parachute, that's pretty fatal. Well, the jungle canopy broke her fall enough so she broke a collarbone and was scraped and scarred up and what have you, but she was alive. She was not a survivalist. She had not been trained. Now, her parents were in the jungle doing research, and so she was around it, but she hadn't been trained in these things. She knew just a little bit. But she just could not imagine the pain her father would have if she didn't come back. So she focused on helping her father. Her mother was on the flight, she had died, but she didn't want to die because how much pain that would cause her. It was 11 days. She crawled out of that jungle in terrible shape, had flies lay eggs in her wounds and maggots came out. I mean, that's like a pretty awful thing. And she struggled along. After 11 days, she found a hut where some hunters found her and got her out of there. What got her out? It wasn't her skill, it was her focus on her purpose, her passion, said that she wanted to not cause pain to her father. Here again, that's an illustration of it. A Miracle in the Andes, same kind of a thing. So you read books about people and you say, what's the common thread?
Yeah.
And in every case that I've ever read, it's they're outside of themselves doing something for somebody else. That's what gets you through. I have a question for you.
Okay.
You've let me ramble on, I appreciate that, but
Yeah,
suppose things are really tough. Let's take the worst case scenario and the world is broken, power grid's gone, and nothing is working around here, and it's a real struggle. Now, you've done a lot of material things to be prepared to help you and your family, but what would get you through when it looks like there's no solution? What would get you through?
That's a great question, because I've thought about that sometimes. I've thought, I know all the right things to do, and I have most of what I need to do it, but do I have the mental framing to get through this? And I believe I do, but it's something that we all have to dig deep and work on. It's not something that just some people have it or don't. I believe it's a gift that we can develop, and so it comes down to things like my family. Mm-hmm. I love my family tremendously, my wife and my children, and even though my children, a lot of them are getting old enough that they're leaving the nest, right. there's still a need for me, and I think for them, to be united on things and to work together on things. And I have some wisdom to help them through things. They have some strength, physical strength to help me through some things. Right. And I think we just need each other. We need that emotional bond. We need that, and that drives me a lot. I also, our community, both our online community and our local community, we have, people that we love, and I have gifts to give, as everybody does. You and all of us have different gifts to share with each other. That's how we get through the hard times, is because we all have different skill sets and we have the ability to do different things, and that drives me a lot also. The desire, not necessarily the need, the want, the desire to be a part of making things better, because I do believe there will be challenging times, but I believe we'll get through them if we work together and we all play a part in that. Right. So those are probably the two main things that drive me. I will admit that I'm not a fan of pain. And going through some of what you're going through would be very challenging, but we can get through these things. Yeah. If we've developed that capacity. And I've read the books that you've encouraged, The Raft, yeah. Miracle in the Andes, Deep Survival. The latest one I did was Endurance. Yeah. The Ernest Shackleton. That just, all of these books just amazed me that they could even get through it. And in the case of Shackleton, they all survived, which I would have thought, there is no way. There is no way that they're going to get through this. Maybe a couple of them will, but I think part of it was that teamwork again. And of course, their desire to be home and with their families and to take care of important things. Mm-hmm. I'm sure for each one it was a little different, but tremendous learning about what helps people survive, what gets people through spots that nobody should get through. Right.
Well, they do. Yeah, and so we learn from other people, and that's why I encourage people to read books, listen to the audio books and things, because if you can put yourself in that position and say, could I do that? And would I want to do that? Would I want to put up with the pain of doing those things? And then you have to decide for you. Because in those cases, all of those cases that you cited, those books, it would have been a lot easier and simpler to just die in the pain. And I know that some people have probably done that. And that's not to say anything bad about them, but they didn't have they hadn't developed the resilience, the purpose, the reason to make it through. So that's what it comes down to. That's what people have to develop. And it's a skill. It's not something that we each have a personality we come with that may make it easier or harder, but it is a skill. I'm convinced of that, and skills can be learned. So your attitude, your outlook, your feeling about these things can be improved. I'm still trying to improve mine. My example I gave earlier here, I botched it because I was focused on me and my problem rather than what's the truth really. And so I misbehaved a little bit. And then I succeeded a little bit after that with this other one, because that thing is $80 probably destroyed. And I couldn't blame anybody but myself, because I'd heard the little, you ought to get that out of your pocket. So I have to take responsibility. And that's one of the keys to this in developing your maturity. Taking responsibility really where it deserves to go, because we have a society that has been schooled in blame somebody, get a lawyer, do this. There's always somebody else out. Somebody needs to fix my problem. No, you need to fix your problem in most cases. Now, some people can be held accountable because they really were wrong. That needs to happen. But trying to blame somebody all the time, you can't do that.
And so turnabout is fair play here. For you, when we talked yesterday, you revealed a little bit that you still feel like you have a mission. You have tremendous skills, knowledge developed over decades, many decades of study and learning and experience, and you still feel that need to to share what you can share and help. But it's got to be more than that, I know.
Well, it is. I mean, number one, first off, it really is my family. My wife, my 9 children, my 29 grandchildren, and my 9 great-grandchildren. I'm here for them. Now, I won't be able to help them all. They're not all around. But it's first and foremost for them to be both an example and then to share some of the knowledge, skills, abilities, because I'll say some of them probably haven't developed what I've developed because they haven't had a need to.
Right.
And
Right.
This is kind of what I need to do. So if nothing else, I need to be an example. And that's what we can be to somebody else, whether it's in our family or somebody else that's just, they're losing it. We can be there to, I'll say, give them a hand, lift them. We can't carry everybody, but we can let me show you. Let me help you. So that's part of what keeps me going now and in the future. It was part of the reason I wanted to keep going right now when things were getting a little dicey there for a while. It's like, no, I have some things I need to teach through you and through some other people I want to share, because maybe I'm a legend in my own mind, but in reality, I think I know some things and understand some things that I can maybe teach better than somebody else. I just want to pass it on. And then when we've got that all done, it's like, hey, I'm done. Get me out of this mess. I'm okay with that, but I'm not in a hurry to be voted off the island, is what it comes down to. I want to keep going. And besides, it's an adventure. Now, sometimes it isn't fun. Some of the things I've been doing in the last little, it's not fun.
No, it isn't.
But it is an adventure. Can I do this? Can I figure out a way? Can I learn what I need to learn? And so I'm not having fun all the time, but I'm having an adventure. And I try to look at it in those terms to say, what can I learn? Is there purpose in this? Is there a reason in this? As I stated at the very beginning, I was praying, saying, is there something I need to learn? And I was given an answer, yes, there is. Now learn it and get on with things.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here, why I want what I want to do. And I do want to reach out to as many people as I can and be a resource and help them. And my family and my mission, my purpose, my calling, whatever you want to say, that's what I'm here for. And one of these days I will be done in spite of not wanting to be done. I'll be done, and it's okay. I'm willing to do that. That'll be the final adventure.
Yeah.
That'll be the final adventure. Can I do that one admirably?
Yes.
Or am I going to go kicking and screaming and moaning and swearing? I hope not.
No, I don't think you will, because what you're showing through all of this is the desire to learn, the desire to improve.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing. So.
Well, and part of the fun is, and having this discussion and thinking about these things, that takes me off my body, feelings, irritation, disappointment, and I can focus on doing something better.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, any tidbits in addition that you would like to add that would help people become more resilient?
Well, and I have a very personal story, and maybe it's too long to tell, because before I knew these facts, before I understood this would have been in 1970, 1971. And maybe I've told this story where I was on a snowshoe trip in January into the Tetons, and about everything that could go wrong went wrong, and I didn't have my clothing and all these things, but I had my friend with me that I got into it. I was in serious, moderate hypothermia. I was right on the edge of a coma. And the only reason I'm alive is, I've been solo on that trip, they would have found me frozen on the ice, because when you're in deepening hypothermia, you are so tired. The only thing you want to do is sleep, because all of the electrochemical processes in your body are shutting down. And I was so exhausted, but the one thing that kept me going is I got my friend Dale into this. It was my responsibility to get him out. He wasn't as bad a shape, there's a reason for that, because I was a tough guy and I didn't do some of the things I could have done. And I was focused on one thing. I'm experienced in what I do. I snow camp. I know how to get out of here. I can focus on that. And the only thing I was focused on was, one step, one more step, one more step to lead Dale out of there. If he hadn't been there, I would have died. So that is my personal example before I really understood this, that I was focused on him rather than my exhaustion and pain. That got me out of there. Focus outside yourself. If you focus on yourself, you may not do very well because you crawl inside yourself either in anger or depression. You got to get outside yourself and have a purpose that's bigger than you for another purpose or a reason. That'll get you through. Practice now on the freeway, at home, the children, the grandchildren, whatever it is. Practice now. This is when you learn before it's bad.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for teaching us about this. I think it's one of the most important topics that we could discuss.
And we don't talk very much about it because it's about being tough. It's about having stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes it's about not wanting to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's truly important.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
now for the question of the day. What are you doing to become more resilient emotionally and to prepare for whatever may come? Share with us. And thanks for being part of the solution.